got to watch little Billy play, or Uncle Bob wasn't able to come, but he was able to get off of work and go and watch the game or whatever. So it's a great tool that people can utilize and stay connected when they're not in the hometown. So,
right. I work in Erie, and a guy that I work with, his granddaughter played volleyball for prep, and Corey was playing prep, and he's like, "Hey, what's that company that covers all that from Corey?" And I said, "The Deej Experience," and gave him the information. And the next day he come in, he's like, "Oh, that was awesome. That was better than going to the game." And he was. See,
that's what we don't want. We want people to go to the games.
Right.
I mean,
right? Yeah, you don't want to take away from that, but yet, even as from a coaching standpoint, I go back and watch most all the matches and kind of scrutinize and see where we need to work. It's great for me. I mean, and I'm sure I'm not the only coach that does that. I'm sure a lot of coaches go back and watch that film. It's nice to be able to have that access from a coach. Yeah. But for the community and the fans, it's great. And, you build a great team, and it takes a team to, be a success with anything. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm the head coach wrestling, but there's a lot more than me.
There's a lot of assistants down the chain, and we talk about it all the time. Coaches love it when we do it so they can go back and watch it, and there are some coaches, I won't mention any names who coaches volleyball, but they don't want the film out there so everybody has free access to it. So we kind of tightrope that here, and we'll put a password on or whatever, so when we go down the States and face like a team like Richland, who we go 5 sets with, they don't have film. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, they're going to get it some way or another. I think they had access through when it was the first match of the year when they went down to Freeport. And because they had their NFHS system, they had some tape on it. You're going to get tape somewhere. Right. But we try not to make it accessible if the coaches don't want it to be. So, but yeah, I mean, it's... And the kids themselves, they'll come up to me and they'll be, because they go home and they watch it.
Oh, right.
Like they all go home and watch it because I hear about it when I call something out or I talk about, for instance, Riley Nickerson's shoes. I love her shoes.
Yeah.
I'll talk about her shoes and she'd be like, I got them on today, so they go back and watch it because they're trying to improve their game too. And the film kind of helps them too. So, that's why we're here. That's why we do what we do. But we can't do what we do, without the coaches who get the kids geared up, who put the effort on the mats, and the parents who bring. I mean, it really is a community effort.
Oh, absolutely. Like, when you go to the end of the year banquet, it's like everybody in that room is part of it. I mean, without the parents, the family, all the help, like I have multiple volunteers. I mean, I probably have 10 people with their Category 1 volunteer that come in the room and help. And without that, we're not the same team. There's so many pieces to it. Good family home. I mean, that's. I'm lucky with the kids that I have on my team. I mean, they're just good kids. We go to away events, stay in hotels. I don't have to worry about them causing problems. I just know they going to make good choices, and that comes from home. They learn that from, them good values from home. So definitely thankful for that.
So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about the new program starting up and how it affects the boys program. We're going to talk about the girls wrestling program and things that might bring up. And also, I don't know if you want to get into it or not, but I'd like to get into the whole playoff formula, the PIAA and that kind of stuff, because there's a lot of talk about it, and I think it needs to be discussed. I think it's time in this day and age that we discuss private public schools, especially in the wrestling format, where I think it has the biggest impact.
Right. It definitely is a problem.
So we'll take a break. We'll talk about it when we come back. We've got to thank some sponsors, and we'll be right back here on the Deej Peeps Sports Podcast right after this.
I do this because I love it. I love working with my hands. I love working with people. I love watching things transform from what they used to be to what we can make them become. We are a full-service general contractor. We do everything from the ground up. We take pride in the fact that we don't use a lot of subcontractors. We have our own in-house masons, cement, roofers, siders, drywall finishing, electricians. This is our 20th year in business. Our employees mean the world to us. We couldn't do what we do without the guys that we have. And we take pride in the fact that most of the guys that have been here for a very long time. If you're looking to have a project done, feel free to reach out to us.
Welcome to Salt Church. We have been in existence for 16 years already, and the main purpose of even having this kind of a experience with everyone is to really dive into the Word. We serve, we anoint, we live, and we train people to just be open to what God is doing in our lives. You are welcome here at Salt Church. We have services Sunday morning at 10:30 here in the sanctuary, but we also have breakfast at 9 o'clock and discipleship training in between the two. So it's a really happening place here on Sunday mornings. We also have life groups, men's groups, women's groups, youth groups, worship stuff. We have all sorts of things for the whole family. Come check us out. We'd love to see you.
We think Rossbacker Insurance is a place for you and for your family, for your individuals, for your businesses, because we want to be your insurance advisor. We're local, we're knowledgeable, we have contracts with all different insurance carriers to customize and fit the right insurance program for your needs. We're here, you can come sit down with us, talk to us one-on-one, sit across from the kitchen table, sit across from our desks, and we can give you good insurance advice, how you can save money, where you don't want to save money and skimp out on coverage. And so we're there to help balance that and give you good insurance advice, good risk management advice. So after you have a claim disaster, you can have confidence that your family, your businesses, your cars, your assets are best protected.
And welcome back in here to the Deej Peeps Sports Podcast. I'm Scott Lockwood with our guest today, Travis Proper. Dewey Hurd with me along with us as well. I believe is what I meant to say.
I'm here.
He's here. I don't know if he's all there. I don't think he's ever all been there, but he's here. But great to have you along this morning again, Dewey. And Travis Proper, our special guest today for Corey Boys Wrestling. And Coach, a new wing has been added to the sporting realm as they have approved not only in high school but college as well, girls wrestling. So we know we've had girls wrestle for the team in the past before, and some of them have held their own. But I think of wrestlers like Kota Kuzma and some of these young girls that are absolutely killing it on the mat. So my question, I don't think it'll affect the boys, but it gives the girls another opportunity to extend what they've learned in kids wrestling, right?
Right. Yeah. So I kind of pushed Corey to start a girls team, and it was mainly to give the girls you see on the girls team right now an opportunity. You know, it's, you know, boys and girls at a young age, they can compete, and a lot of times you'll see girls compete at a very high level in the youth, you know, beating boys. You know, it's not uncommon whatsoever. But, you know, come, you know, high school, there's a difference between young men and young women, strength difference and stuff like that. So, you know, Corey starting out that girls team, it definitely was the right move, and they're having a lot of success, gives them a lot of opportunity. They could go on, you know, compete in college. Girls wrestling is the fastest growing sport in the United States right now.
Next to pickleball, I think.
Yeah, maybe. Next to pickleball.
Don't throw our pickleball under the bus now. Come on.
Yeah, so And we have Darcy Hatley running the program, Tyler Berlew. So we had everything in place. We had the coaching. You know, people step up to coach, and Darcy does an awesome job. I think they have 4 or 5 experienced girls on their team and 4 or 5 new girls on their team, kind of learning as they go. And but they're definitely headed in the right direction, and they're building a great program. And they're just going to get tougher. I mean, they're inexperienced, and every time they get on the mat, they're getting better.
And it's all about mat time. It's kind of like baseball or softball. You need plate appearances, right? To get it down. And wrestling's the same way. And you know, and I kind of looked at wrestling as like, I didn't first know much about the sport. I'm still learning. I don't know a whole lot about it. I know it's competitive, and I know what a snowplow is. That's what I picked up from Dewey so far. I mean, he says thread the needle, and I'm like, what are you sewing now? You know. So our first time on the mat, what was it? I want to say almost 5 years ago now. It was a home match against Sagertown.
Yeah, the home match against Sagertown. When we opened
that was my very first wrestling match. It was a packed house. They brought the big spotlight on when the lights went down. I'm like, you know what? This is a pretty neat sport. Now, granted, I wrestled for a week in my life. Back when I was in high school in Bradford, my cousin's husband had talked me into it because I was a troubled kid, single parent. You know, I'd run in the streets, whatever. I mean, I was a troubled child growing up. I think I'm still troubled, but that's besides the point. So anyways, I got picked up by a guy called Steve Perryman, who was probably one of our better wrestlers back in the day. And because I was a chubby kid, you get put in a weight class. I knew nothing about it. Well, he kind of German suplexed me on my head. I got a concussion, and that was the end of my sporting career because my mother said, you'll never play sports again.
Oh, jeez.
And that's why you get me as a commentator now, because I have a passion for sports.
Right.
So, yeah, that was my extent of wrestling. And we went to that Sagertown match, and I'm like, man, it's a fantastic atmosphere when you get 2 full teams going at it, and it's nip and tuck the whole way.
Oh, yeah, it is. I mean, it's so exciting when you have them dual meets or, you know, individual matches that have you on the edge of your seat, and, you know, both kids battling hard. I mean, there's so many great values that are learned in sports in general, but I feel like wrestling has a little bit more values to add than other sports. I mean, you're going out there one-on-one, and it's all on you. You're not blaming the line. You're not blaming the guy that passed you the ball. It's on you. And, you know, it takes a special individual to go out there and give it everything they got, win or lose, be a good sport, and go back to the room and work to get better. There's a lot of, good life lessons and hard work, being a good teammate. I say, wrestling is unique. So it's an individual sport, but yet it's a very much of a team sport. And I always tell the kids in basketball, in football, in baseball, in baseball you can have a pitcher throw a no-hitter, team wins. In football, somebody might, rush for 300 yards. Basketball, one guy scores 40 points. In wrestling, there's 13 spots, and everybody's worth the same exact to their team. There is no all-star. You have to be a piece of the team and, contribute. So nobody's more important than the next guy to have a successful team.
All right. That makes it the uniqueness.
Yeah, that's
it's an individual, but it's your individual score is helping your team.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I use, for example, a kid a few years ago. He's wrestling at Penn State now, wrestled in Harbor Creek. He was probably the best wrestler in District 10. At that time, Harbor Creek wasn't a very strong team at all. He was the best kid in District 10, but he was probably on the worst team. You can't carry your team in wrestling.
Right. And you get that shot. Now that the team duels are over, now you got the individual brackets where you go up through. Right. So how does that process work, and how do the kids prepare for that?
Well, I mean, preparing for it, it's a little bit of a different strategy. It's either win and move on or not, rather than in a dual meet, your job might be go out there, keep it close, limit bonus points, stuff like that. Now, I mean, if you're down in a match, you're gonna go for, whatever it takes to try to get that win, and even if it puts you in a risk maybe to give up a pin or something like that, you got to go for it. I mean, there's nothing to lose from a team aspect. It's individually and
So it's a different strategy.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right.
Okay.
Right. When you're wrestling for the team, you got to think about getting a major decision down to a regular decision, or move a regular decision into a major decision. But when you're doing an individual, you're just looking to win matches.
Right.
So you don't really care about the risk that you take. Sometimes it's risk reward balanced out there. So.
Well, before we get to the down and dirty, I want to talk about the season and in the region, and specifically, there's not a lot of teams yet to really give a challenge in the region. I think General McLean was the best match of the year by far.
Right.
And is there, would you like to see that region improve from a competition standpoint?
Oh, absolutely.
And
would
you like work? Is it like, I'm talking like Beaver Brawl, something of that nature, where the District 10, the region teams rather, can get together and say, okay, let's help you improve, you help us improve.
Right. Yeah. In the off season, we practice. I mean, in the off season, a lot of teams do not, and it shows in the regular season. But every year in the off season, we invite teams around us to come work with us, and now that it's individual, you're allowed to practice with other teams. And the Seneca coach, he reached out to me and asked if he could bring his wrestlers and wrestle with us, and I said, absolutely, and they can come in, and I don't look at it like they're stealing coaching philosophy or techniques or my warm-up drills or anything like that. It's like, go do them, get better. It's better for the sport. I want wrestling to grow, and it's funny to say that because here in Pennsylvania, I mean, wrestling is better than any other state in the country.
Yeah.
Good example of that is we were at Caldersport Doles, and a team from Wyoming was there, Worland, Wyoming. And I was like, man, how'd this team get here? And I found out that 4 coaches, the Mifflin County, Grove City, the Caldersport coach, and that Worland, Wyoming coach were all teammates at Penn State. They were all on the same team at Penn State, and they all went their separate ways, and then they got together for this duel. But anyways, that Worland, Wyoming team was ranked second in the state, and last year they did take second in the state, and they were in an 8-team bracket with PA teams, and they took 6 out of 8, local teams here, and we got second there, lost to Central Mountain. Grove City beat them by like 30. Grove City's ranked about 35th in the state here.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean...
So that's a big drop-off
then you give
outside
a comparison. And then Chautauqua Lake, they have a great program, not saying anything against their program, but we beat them 55-9, and they made a deep state playoff run.
I think they're the number 1 small school ranked in New York State or Western New York.
Yeah, and I mean, we beat them 55. I think it was 55-9, wasn't it? Something like that. It wasn't
pretty
close.
Impressive, though.
Yeah, it wasn't close. I mean, the Corey team, and it'd probably be safe to say in at least 45 states we'd be state champs.
That's incredible, the difference between states like that. It's not like that in any other sport, right?
No, I mean, I was looking at the college recruits from PA. It's on a site Dewey's on right now, PA Wrestling, and going to Division I, PA wrestlers, I mean, there's like 500 a year that go. The Iowa team, the Nebraska team, teams from all over the country are just loaded with PA kids.
That's pretty impressive.
It is.
And state playoffs, you get District 10 has 3 teams representing this year, correct?
2.
Yeah, just 2.
We used to have 3.
Made it. Yeah, just 2, us and Cathedral Prep.
Okay.
Were
So how do they decide that? Because I feel like there should have been, because Reynolds should have been in there too, right?
well, we beat Reynolds is why they weren't in there.
Okay.
They were in. They were in the District 10 bracket.
But do other districts, they get more than 2, correct?
Yeah, it all depends on your school. So District 10, I think we have 38. Is it 38 teams, I believe? So the WIPUL, I think they get maybe I want to say 4, but they have 80-something teams.
Oh, okay. So they do it by school number.
Absolutely. It's just by participation numbers. That's all they go by. So, I mean, you have District 11, the eastern side of the state. They are loaded with talent. They're 3rd and 4th place out of District 11 are also ranked 3rd and 4th in AAA in the state, and they didn't even make it to the state tournament because they only take 2. So sometimes at the state tournament, you'll see, teams there that are there in the Final 4, Final 8, but they're ranked 12th in the state because there's better teams at home that, their district was just a little deeper and stuff like that. So, right now, we're ranked 7th in the state and lost in the round of 16, but I think everybody understands we lost to the number 1 team in the country. So, it's really just where we fell in the bracket.
There's a reason why they're number 1 in the country.
Right.
Which is where I want to head. I don't know if you want to head here or not, but we've talked about it. I've thought about it. I know other sports have thought about it. The public versus private school discussion, it's not going away anytime soon. Bishop McCourt, they are what they are, but they also have kids from all over the country.
Right, absolutely. And it just, so first off, in wrestling, if you take teams from all over the country, and maybe you have 6 homegrown kids as well, but you take all these top talent from all around the country, those 6 homegrown kids are only going to get that much better because they're wrestling top kids in the country. So it just makes your program that much better. As far as Bishop McCourt, they're outstanding. They could beat a lot of Division I college teams, and I'm not, that's no stretch. They definitely could beat a lot of division. They have a lot of kids that already competed in the college level, and they've won multiple college open tournaments. Their one kid on their team just signed with Oklahoma. He got 3rd in the U.S. Olympic trials, and he's in high school. His original hometown is North Carolina. He's wrestling at McCourt, and there's kids from Colorado there, Tennessee there, Georgia there. They just got a kid from Florida there, and that's great. They're number 1 team in the country. But go be that number 1 team in the country against an even playing field. My team, not just my team, a lot of AA small school teams. We're from right here in Corey. We don't have a kid even from a neighboring town, let alone 1,000 miles away. So it's not an even playing field, and I think it's been discussed multiple times. And that people hear coaches like myself saying this, and they're like, "Oh, you're a crybaby" or whatever. No, it's a fact. You can't compete from a team standpoint when other teams are pulling from all over. And it's not their problem. Bishop McCourt, I don't blame Bishop McCourt. I don't blame none of these private schools. It's a PIAA.
It's a system issue.
Yeah, they're not breaking no rules. They are breaking no rules whatsoever. Cathedral Prep, they have a strong wrestling program. They've put a lot of great wrestlers out. They got kids wrestling right now all across the country in college and doing well. So you don't want to see a program like that go away. You want to see it continue and thrive. But just from the growing up right here, watching all these high school kids grow up and wrestle, they all wore different school singlets growing up. They weren't wearing Cathedral Prep singlets. They were wearing General McLean singlets, Harbor Creek singlets, Eisenhower singlets. We had a kid come to our Corey practices one time that's on their team. He grew up coming to our practices. And they have a Union City kid on their team, Northwestern kid on their team. It goes on and on. It's not their fault. Parents want to send them there for, I think it used to be, in 1972 when the Catholic schools become part of PIAA, it was like give these Catholic kids a place to participate in sports as well. And at that time, they were all members of the church going to school there. And now, people, it has nothing to do with their religion is why they're there. Just being honest. They're going there solely for athletic purposes. And even if they want to say they're not recruiting, they run a kids club, and they're always inviting the whole community to come to their practices and always advertise how it's free. And, that's a form of recruiting, which is fine. Do whatever you want to do, but PIAA needs to step it up. And all you got to do is look at any sport. Wrestling, the state playoffs is going on right now in AA. Dewey just had it pulled up a little bit ago. And the top 4 are in the semifinals. It was Faith Christian against Bishop McDevitt, Berks Catholic against
Bishop
McCourt. So, I think there's 8 private schools in all of AA wrestling out of 288 schools. And out of those 8 Catholic schools, 4 of them are in the semifinals, and there's one in Wrestlebacks, Cathedral Prep. So, that's kind of enough to tell you right there. And it's not just wrestling. I think you look up any sport, and you were talking about volleyball.
We've seen it in volleyball this year.
Right. It was Corey and 3 other private schools in semifinals. And, Corey had a great run, I think they advertised number 1 public school, and absolutely they were the number 1
the public school champions.
Yeah, they absolutely were. And you go down there, and right now Hallie Elbers that played Corey volleyball, she's playing on a team right now in Erie with the prep kids and stuff like that, just to get more playing time and stuff like that. And they take them all-star teams like that, and they make it their regular season team. And it's hard to compete, from a homegrown. But, at the same time, would I rather be here in Corey in a homegrown team than be on a team where you got all these kids from all over the country that other people coached up and they were just studs when you got them there? There's a lot of things to be proud of being homegrown and watching these kids, have their, their kind of failures throughout the sport, and, help them get through those and find little successes that turn into bigger successes and just keep getting better and better. There's definitely, I find a lot of pride in that, building a team together, and I can go back and look at my whole team and, tell you their biggest wins and biggest losses clear back to first, second grade. We've been right close with them the whole way up through, and, to see them come up through and put together what they've done, is really rewarding for me, to see that. And, we're a private school. What kind of reward is it to have a kid on your team that maybe he's already medaled at states 3 or 4 times at the junior high level and kids level under a different coaching staff, and now you're coaching him? Is that anything you really did, or was the kid already a hammer when you got him?
Right. Right. So, Dewey, I was talking with Matt Still this week, right?
Yeah.
And he was telling me when they wrestled prep or something. I can't remember what the story was, but they ended up getting LaBeouf shirts that said "Built, not bought."
Right.
So I'm good friends with the coaching staff in LaBeouf. Last year's coaches, their kids grew up wrestling. My kid, my personal kids and my team, all the kids that I've been coaching for years. Joe Sabishin and Shane McChesney, and they were kind of like the volleyball team. They were that number one public school a few years ago. They kind of had a really great team, and they had a path, and they made it to the finals, and they ended up going against Faith Christian. That it wasn't close, but they wound up being second in the state. But they were the only public school that was in there. So they had a lot to be proud of, and that was kind of, they showed up to Hershey with that hashtag built not bought, and we kind of go with that, and homegrown. They can't say that. It's like, I give you pictures of these kids when they were in first grade wrestling for Corey. Why don't you give me all your kids' first and second grade wrestling photos, and we'll see how many different schools are in them singlets have on.
Yeah.
And Fort LaBeouf was the same way. They were. We used to practice together, Corey youth and Fort LaBeouf youth, and made each other better. And that's like what you mentioned earlier about getting together in your area to make the whole District 10 better. We did that quite a bit with LaBeouf back when these kids that are in high school now were in elementary. And it made us all better, getting that tougher competition stuff. But we didn't take any of the LaBeouf kids, and they didn't take any of the Corey kids to make each other teams better. We just worked with what we had, and there's like I was mentioning before, there's a lot to be proud of with that. Is a lot of hard work goes behind that.
And it is a lot of hard work, a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of sacrifice, not just from the kids, but from the coaching staff, from the families in the area. So, but yeah, it just seems anymore these days, it's kind of like a championship trophy if you make it in with these other private schools, right? I mean, it's like, and I don't see how you can get your kids amped up to play somebody like this when they know what's coming.
Well, here's the thing. It tell you how flawed PIAA system is. So you take Harbor Creek, for example. They've always been AA. But their numbers, Iroquois' numbers, were kind of declining in wrestling and some other sports. So they combine as schools for athletic purposes. So they had to change their numbers. They had to add Iroquois and Harbor Creek numbers together, and that put them in AAA. So two small AA schools, you add up, and now you're in AAA. But I'm just going to use Prep as an example because they're local here, and I kind of understand, that area. So if you take Prep, so I know one kid that's on the Prep wrestling team. He lives in Eisenhower. I know a kid on the Prep wrestling team that lives in General McLean. I know a kid that lives in Harbor Creek. I know a kid that lives in Northwestern. I know a kid on their team that lives in Union City.
So why aren't you adding all those up?
So why don't you add up that population and see where you're at? I mean, because that's what you're doing to the Harbor Creek wrestling team.
So is the answer then that all of these private schools should be in the highest 6A or whatever, 3A, whatever they're competing in?
You don't want to handcuff a team that's not pulling people in. So if you have somebody like Travis was saying, a kid that was wrestling from Northwestern, and that kid comes and wrestles for Cathedral Prep, take the numbers that you're pulling from that pool, and you have to add that to Prep's numbers now.
Which would put them in the higher. But if you have all your local kids that are from your local area, then you stay at your regular numbers. But you start pulling these other kids in from other schools, you have to start pulling those numbers in too and get pumped up into a higher bracket. It's just you're pulling from a bigger pool, and that's the whole basis of the different classifications in PIAA.
Right.
And that's where the big unfairness comes from.
So there's a bill right now that passed 24-1, the legislation that's going to the House of Representatives, of public versus private and open border. I have the email on my phone, and it voted 24-1 to go to, and this just passed in October, to go get voted, and it's supposed to be voted on in the next couple months. And this hasn't been looked at from the House of Representatives since 1972, which is really hard to believe. And it was talking about, it was saying open border, charter, private schools must compete in the highest sport division is what this bill is. So it's not saying they can't compete. It's saying if you're private and you have the ability to have kids from all over, or if you're I know a few District 10 schools in the area that have open border. You can, pay tuition and your kid can go to that school and not live in that town, where Corey is an open border. I mean, you got to live in the school district to go to Corey school. There's a lot of schools in the area that aren't like that. So they would be in that classification as well, according to this bill.
Well, if it passes, maybe our teams can do a redo and see what happens. But I feel like, a couple of wrestling could be a state champion. Right? Volleyball definitely would be a state champion.
Right. I mean, if you look at wrestling, say this year's team, I think you would have a strong argument saying we were good enough to compete for a state title against public schools. I'm not going to sit here and say we would have been state champions. We would have had to wrestle Montoursville and Burrell and a few of these other teams, and then it would have been decided on the map. But it would have been great to have that opportunity for our small town to, have that opportunity. But it's taken away from PIAA. And, I don't want to – I have nothing against any of these Catholic schools.
Oh, I don't either. But make it fair.
It's just PIAA. PIAA needs to address it, and Prep has never been down in AA wrestling. And Coach Hassey, I think, understands that they don't belong down there, but his athletic director didn't give him a choice, and they made him go down to AA. He wanted to stay in AAA where they've always been, because I think he understands, he's pulling kids from all these schools now that he's competing against.
Yeah.
So, of course, if you take some of your competition's best kids and now you go wrestle them, you're probably got an upper hand.
And now you're not only that, but when you're pulling from these schools, you're making their team, their small town team, even weaker.
Absolutely.
And they don't have enough kids to pull from anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. You're definitely, you take a kid off of, say they have a kid from Eisenhower, a kid from Unicity, a kid from GM, kid from Harker. Those teams would love to have those kids. And then you put all them kids together on one team, and it makes their practice room that much better, and they get that much better from practice. And, if we could practice with multiple schools every day at practice, we would get a lot better as
absolutely.
well. I mean, kind of iron sharpens iron.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to talk about individual playoffs up and coming and what the expectations for that are going to be, and where we think the Beavers are going to land in that. And that'll probably wrap us up for today. But we'll be back with that right here on the Deej Peeps podcast. Why should you choose Corey Federal Credit Union? Since 1958, Corey Federal Credit Union has been committed to your community, your hometown, and to you. CFCU has accounts for all your needs like checking, savings, youth accounts, business accounts, money market, CDs, IRAs, and HSAs with rates that work for you. They have unbeatable loan rates for auto, mortgage, signature, line of credit, and business loans. They have you covered. Corey Federal Credit Union, your hometown credit union, located at 728 Worth Street in Corey, 56 North Main Street in Union City, and 315 Main Street in Spartansburg. Federally insured by NCUA, equal housing lender. Membership eligibility required.
When you need health care, you deserve a health system that takes a whole person approach to medicine for you and your family. Whether you need the expert care of our hospitals, the specialized knowledge of our clinical practices, the compassionate support of our behavioral health network, or our continuum of services for seniors, you can rely on LeCom Health. Founded in Erie, invested in Erie, advancing healthcare in Erie. LeCom Health, whole person care for a lifetime.
Hi, this is Bob Brown from Corey Snap Fitness and our new facility. Hey, as summer is winding down and fall is coming around the corner, come in and check out all of our new equipment and fitness packages that we have here at Snap Fitness. Don't forget that we also have tanning, we have a walking track, and it's for beginners to the most advanced. We have it all. Come and see us at Corey Snap Fitness. My name is Bob Brown and I'm the owner.
Hi everybody, Rich here from the Performance Center.
Located at 11323 Route 6 in Corey, Lifted Health is owned and operated by Rich Galinsky. Open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Friday, and 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Saturdays. Lifted Health offers personal training, classes, sports-specific rehab, functional training, and nutrition. Text Rich today at 814-323-6154 or message Lifted Health on Facebook at facebook.com/Lifted Barbell Club. And welcome back in here to the Deej Peeps Sports Podcast. Scott Lockwood here with you. And my coffee from Tim Hortons that I waited about 35 minutes for this morning is gone. So that means we're about wrapped up here. But here with Coach Travis Proper, Corey Beavers Wrestling, and Dewey Hurd with me as well. You finished 7th in the team duels, a fantastic mark for the Beavers this year. Now we get into singles. So where is the boys' mind at mentally trying to prepare for this, and who do you expect to make a major push?
I think there's several kids that are going to go make a deep push. I think there's a few kids maybe capable of getting a state medal. I mean, Mason Savitz, I think if he has a really good postseason, you could possibly see him finish very, very high, and I wouldn't be surprised if he could even, win his bracket. He's wrestling at a very, very high level, works extremely hard. And, Cale Elbers, he could make a deep run. Cody Will, Stephen Willis, Carson Braswell, both the Nickersons. We got a lot of tough kids on our team.
A lot of talent.
Yeah, Isaiah Bale. We got a lot of kids that could go deep. I expect, majority of our team to get out of sections. There's 14 teams in our section, I think. They take the top 7 out. I feel like majority of our team, will be able to, get out of sections at districts, maybe 38 teams or something like that. And they take the top 7 as well top 8. And then go to regionals, and we pair up with District 9 and take the top 4 between District 10 and 9. And yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, so a week from today we have sections, that following week's districts, and that following week is regionals, and then I think March 6th through the 8th is a state tournament in Hershey. So got about a month left.
Are you making a trip?
I sure hope so. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll be there. Hopefully, we'll be there with quite a few kids.
So, Dewey and I, we've talked about it before, and it's pretty much impossible for us to cover individuals because you could have more than one kid on the mat at once, and this is the reason why we don't, because we don't want to cover one kid and have another not get covered, because then parents get upset. And
right.
And we decided when we first started that there's no way we're going to do this and keep everybody happy, so we just opted out of individuals. But our hearts and our souls are with these kids, and we hope they do extremely well. I don't think outside of parents and family you're not going to find two bigger fans of Corey sports than Dewey and myself.
Oh, right. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you guys probably know every athlete in Corey for the most part, as much as you guys cover stuff. I mean, you guys cover it all, everything.
And it's kind of like track, right? We can't cover everything on track going on the track day, so it's like we can't do it. We would need half of the school to volunteer to help us cover every event going on the track.
Right.
Golf's the same way, So those sports we kind of teeter away from, but when it comes to individual and wrestling, we just can't do it. Now, if we had one kid that went, we would be there in a heartbeat.
Right.
But we just multiple kids at the same time, we just can't do it.
Yeah, that's understandable for sure. I mean, as coaches, we have a hard time keeping up. Sometimes we'll have 4 kids wrestling at the same time, and how you said you don't want to pick one kid over the other, but obviously you can't be coach 4 different kids at the same time. So, I mean, obviously everybody on our team knows, we got their backs, and we would absolutely love to be coaching everybody all the time, but it just is impossible to do. And we definitely do coach everybody, but there's times where we have Mark Muncie, Mike Muncie, Brad Allen, obviously Austin. We're all different places. There's times where each one of us would be coaching at a mat. So yeah, from your guys' end, you can't film all that.
Yeah, yeah, it'd be tough, but we'd love to. If I could clone and have like 5 Deweys running around,
right.
I would be more than happy to do it, although I would probably lose the rest of my hair, whatever left of this gray mess is, because all 5 of them would call me at the same time and tell me, hey, we've got a problem, or hey, we didn't do this, or but yeah. No, Dewey's done a great job covering, and I'm so thankful for his knowledge of the sport, because he makes our broadcast and he makes these kids pop on our broadcast.
Right. Yeah, I'm thankful as well.
I'm thankful for him. I'm thankful for you and all the other coaches. Our sponsors, Brad Allen has been huge for us at Rossbacher with the playoffs. Jamie Meredith over at Bracken sponsored the entire District 10 playoffs. So it takes a community, and man, I'm so proud of this wrestling team and what you've accomplished this year. What does it look like for you going forward after individuals? When does your season, does it even stop? Or are you constantly on to the next thing?
Well, it does stop, but it usually don't stop for us till around June. I do believe the kids need that downtime. They need to kind of that downtime, and it definitely slows down after the season. But I push for the kids to wrestle a couple days a week. Brad Rossbecker's provided a place for us to practice in Elgin, and we did a lot of work to that and to kind of make that space.
I've been up there. It's big up there.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, how much has Rich Galinsky brought to this team, strength and conditioning wise?
He actually doesn't work with us.
I thought he did.
Well, he did a few years ago. He worked with us, but then in the summer, in the off season, when we'd want to lift and get stronger. During the season, got a lot of kids cutting weight, so kind of lifting is kind of counterproductive. But we want to work on strength and conditioning in off season, and we always have. For 3 years, I think Rich worked with us, but then this past year, he was working with the football team, which happens to be about 90% of my wrestling team. So, yes, he still worked with us. So it was like, all right, I was thinking, all right, can you work times in? And he's like, I'm working with the football team. And then I kind of contact some of my wrestlers. He's like, yeah, we're lifting there with the football team. And it's like, all right. So, yeah, he kind of, in a roundabout way,
he worked
with the football team. So, and like I said, 90% of my team plays football. And it might even be higher percentage than that. Most of the kids on my team play football.
Yeah. And they had a successful year as well. So.
Oh, yeah. It was great watching them. Without the wrestlers on that team, they weren't that team. They were. There was other good kids on the team, but you take Nolan, Mason, Will, Kale,
yep.
Owen,
Nickerson,
Landon. Yep. They definitely were a strong part of the team, which is great to see. I want to see them kids have. And that's what I was talking about. They need that downtime. We'll practice a couple of days a week up until June, hit a few tournaments. We go to, over Memorial Weekend, we go to Virginia Beach as a team and compete in high school nationals, where there's about 800 teams. And it's a fun.
If you've never been, it's a great experience.
Yeah, it's a fun. Oh yeah, you've taken Derek. Yeah. So the last, I think, 4 years we've taken a high school team there, and we've done well. The last 2 years we won our pool, and then we run into a little, stiffer competition. But the kids go down there and get 6-7 matches, and we practice a couple of days a week leading up to that, and off season. Kind of your spring and summer off season will kind of create what you do during season. You
need that little bit of downtime over the summer just to kind of rest, let your body just take a breather, and because you push it hard from late fall and all through winter, so
right.
You need that little bit of respite to recuperate and get better.
Right, and at the same time, from a coach, you got to remember these kids are kids, and you want them to have several, youth experiences. You don't want them to grow up and be like, "What'd you do when you were a kid?" I wrestled. You want them to. I got kids that are in 4-H and kids that are big into hunting and trapping and fishing, and it goes on and on and on. I don't want them. I want them to go do that stuff. Have
be
those
kids.
Yeah, have that experience and. During wrestling season, I want their attention and I want their work ethic and I want them to be there. But, you talked about an off season, I kind of keep it minimal so I get participation. If I said, all right, let's go 4 or 5 days a week, I don't want a kid to do that. I want them to go do other stuff and enjoy their friends and their hobbies and, be a kid.
I wish I could go back and be a kid again.
Yeah, me too.
I would probably stick it out a little more than what I did. Maybe in a different life, I could have been an athlete that I wanted to be instead of the non-athletic body that I carry around today. But these kids, I'm so proud of what they've accomplished. Keep up the good work, Coach. And, Corey Proud, man. Right, Corey Proud.
Absolutely. Yep.
I would be surprised. I know they do that big award ceremony over there in Erie every year. I would be surprised if Corey didn't land a lot of people there this year.
Right.
This senior class. You look at the senior class in general. From Savitz and Carey and Will Allen and all those guys, and then on the other side of it. You've got Elbers, McKenna Moore, Sidney Woods, that whole volleyball team with 9 seniors. I mean, this senior class, what makes them so different than any other senior class?
I wish I knew, but we all knew from an early age, when they were 7th, 8th grade, it was like, man, when they get into high school, going to be tough.
There's just a competitive nature.
It was, but the thing is I think a lot of youth programs throughout probably the country see these classes and these kids and be like, man, our future is going to be really good. But to watch it all kind of come into fruition with the boys side of it and the girls side of it was awesome to see, because that doesn't always happen. And, the girls, as far as volleyball, found a ton of success with that senior class. The wrestling found a ton of success with that senior class. And football, they found, a lot of success with that senior class, which was great to see, because it don't always happen. Sometimes I remember, a few years ago, a couple, I would say about 4 years ago, you had a senior class that was just loaded. I remember Little League and football, youth football. It's like, man, they're going to be tough, all the sports. But then it come high school, and a lot of them kind of fizzled out.
They grow up, they lose interest in
and
things.
Then it never really happened. But to see this time it happened. It happened this time. I mean,
and now hopefully seeing that, these kids, they're now growing up, coming up through and saying, man, we can be that when we're seniors, Yeah,
I think the senior class on the boys' side of it and the girls' side of it set the bar high, but they showed everybody this is what can be done also.
This is how it's done.
Yeah.
We can do this as a small school.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. So, congratulations on a great season, Coach. Always a pleasure when we get a coach on and explain to us how things go, what the happenings are, and where we're going from here. And it's been fun to watch, fun to be a part of.
Yeah, and thanks for being a part of it. You're a huge access.
Dewey, anything else you got for Coach?
Just one thing, comment I'll make about this senior class from the girls and the boys side. A few years ago, we were down at the Sharon Duels as a team, probably the last year we were there, and we had a little bit of a break. And I was down on the mat doing the broadcast, and as I kind of just looked around the gym, and I looked at the Corey wrestling team, it was like you had 15 to 20 brothers.
Oh yeah, they're
just
like family.
I mean, and that was it's a brotherhood, and it's just the interrelationships that everybody had. There was no you're laying on me or whatever, it wasn't that type of thing. But they all have a genuine, I wouldn't say. They enjoy being together, and it's a community type thing. It's a relationship, and they all interact well with one another, and they enjoy being together. And I think that kind of just brings out their competitiveness, and they root for one another, and they spur one another on to be better, and it's just a great relationship that they have with one another.
You're spot on. They are best of friends. I mean, they do so much outside of wrestling together. They do a lot of, hunting together. They go watch UFC fights together. Our whole team went bowling yesterday together. We do a lot of stuff together as a team, and they are each other's biggest fans. I mean, they know what everybody's done. I mean, they know all the hard work and sacrifices and you give up, and they hold each other accountable. But at the end of the day, they are Matt's side cheering for each other, and that's great to see from a coach's standpoint. I mean, they definitely root for each other, and they're just the definition of a team. I mean, they are a team.
Yeah, the shirts say one team, one family. That's
right.
Literally
right. Yeah.
Little Corey wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, it really
one
is.
team, one family.
It really is.
All right. Do we have a banquet date, or is that not set yet?
Yeah, it is set. I should know that, right?
It's coming up.
Does March 26th or something like that, I want to say.
Okay.
I'll let you know for sure.
Just so we ordered our sportsmanship trophy for both boys and girls wrestling this year because we did both of them. So we'll need that information when the time comes. And Yeah, it's always a pleasure to encourage that award. That award for me, I just didn't want it to be how good you are on the mat, because you can be good on the mat, but we want to focus on how good of a person are you, not just a wrestler, not just a football player, or, how do you treat your classmates in the hallway, right? When nobody's looking, how, are you involved in your community? Do you give back? Things of that nature. That's what that award was created for, because we want to encourage that. And we found that a lot of the time that the kids that are performing well in their sport or in their whatever they're doing are also the ones that are performing in the community and that are being that leader in the school. And so it's great to see, and it just, for us, it's to kind of cheer them on. Say, hey, congratulations for being a great person. Go do more, right? Go do more. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I think that's a great award. Sportsmanship is, that's one of the great things you can get from as an athlete. Anybody, I'm not saying anybody can be a great athlete. That's not quite true. But, you can be a great athlete and not a good teammate, and maybe not a hard worker, and maybe you're just kind of going off of a gift, and rather than, there's other people that are doing the right things and helping each other, being a good teammate, setting the example, not making those bad choices, and bringing people up around them and stuff like that, being positive. And those kids should be rewarded for that type of stuff. I mean, that's the type of kids you want on your team.
Yeah, and those are the ones that'll run through a brick wall for you.
Absolutely.
Like Dewey, he runs through brick walls for me.
That's good. Wouldn't expect anything else.
You got to treat him like a child some days, and he'll just do anything for you, right? But no, thanks for coming on, Coach. And the last thing I've got today before we get out of here is Super Bowl Sunday.
Philadelphia.
Thank you. We're all in agreement. Everybody can't stand Kansas City, and we are all going for Philadelphia. It'll be the only time you ever hear me root for Philadelphia.
Yeah, same here.
But, So, well, Coach Proper, thanks for joining us today. That's going to wrap up our show for the podcast. Our next broadcast will be Monday, girls basketball against Edgewood, Ohio. Pretty decent team coming in, I hear. And
varsity only.
Varsity only. The JV canceled, so the girls will have a JV game on Tuesday, I believe, at 4 o'clock, followed by the boys' JV game at 6, and senior festivities to follow senior night. So,
all right.
Tune in, watch us live on the Deej Experience Sports Stream. Thank you again for joining us, Coach Proper. Always a pleasure to have you on, and best of luck moving forward.
Yep, thank you, and thanks for having me on.
All right, that wraps us up here for today. Stay tuned for this week's schedule coming up. Make sure you like us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, whatever you find us on. It's the Deej Experience Productions and podcast and sports stream. We kind of do it all. So until then, God bless you all. Have a great afternoon. We'll see you next time.